This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
Johnny Carson of the big one. Off again. Doc Thompson. I'm Darryl Parks, normally heard on Saturday mornings at 9:06. And welcome to a Friday, day after opening day. We have the off day with the Reds and opening night happening tomorrow. What a way to start off the season. We'll get into that a little bit later on this morning. But first, right before the first of the year, I had a fellow, Gerald Celente, who you may know from Trends Journal and TrendsResearch.com, on talking about the top 11 trends of 2011. And here we are, the beginning of the second quarter of 2011. Gerald, good morning.
Hey, Darryl. Thanks for having me back.
All right, so we're into 2011. We're 3 months into it now. And I remember our conversation back in December. And are you predicting economic issues? You predicting protest issues, protests with young people, and here we are, the United States into war number 3.
Yes, and that's the way it's trending unless the course is reversed. What's going on in the Middle East and South Africa, North Africa, as we had forecast before this happened, is basically simple elements. When the money stops flowing down to the man on the street, the blood starts flowing in the streets. You know, they don't want to talk about democracy and theocracy. This has to do with young people with university degrees and worthlessness. They can't get jobs. You look at Egypt, for example, depending on whose numbers you look at, the people are living on between $2 and $10 a day, and they corruption at the top. And they've had it. You know, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. You saw what went on in the UK last week, 500,000 people to the streets. Same story. They're angry. They're angry that they're being forced to bail out all of the banks, all of the rich people, while they have what they call austerity measures, which means that, well, we're going to cut your pensions, your benefits, service is going to cost more, we're going to tax you more, we're going to increase your retirement age till after you die. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're seeing going on worldwide. We are on the onset of the first great war of the 21st century.
Well, Gerald, we live in America. We're almost isolationist in, I know it's not really that way in the economy anymore, but it's almost like we're isolationists, and we don't think that that issues that are happening or had happened in Egypt or happening in Libya or Yemen or any of these Mideastern countries, or to a greater extent happening in England last weekend, we almost think it can't happen here. But
well, there are two reasons why I don't think it will happen here. Number one is when you get out of line, you know, this government loves to talk about giving the protesters rights over in foreign countries, but boy, they lock you up in a flash over here. Mm-hmm. You saw what they did at the G20 meeting up at Pittsburgh. How about all those people that got arrested a couple of weeks ago on the anniversary of the Iraq War out in front of the White House? You know, they had the freedom zones here. And the other thing is, too, you know, one of my books, Trends 2000, you know, people say I'm a gloom and doomer. In that book that I wrote back in the mid-'90s, I was so optimistic about this country. I thought we were really going to move in another direction. And as I look at it now, you know, this isn't a country of mommy's boys. It's soccer mommy's boys. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think the people in this country have a fight anymore. I mean, they listen to politicians. Adults still listen to politicians. You know, so I don't see that fight. We're at war now. The president unilaterally, using his words, took us to war. Where's the outrage? How about we the people? Whatever happened to that one?
Right. You know, Gerald, one of the things that disturbed me, and I know one of the trends that you have is a massive change in journalism in 2011 and moving forward. One of the things that disturbed me this past week, the House Majority Leader Eric Cantor of Virginia came out and said the House is going to pass a bill if the Senate doesn't pass this, and it was all about the cuts in the budget, which is a joke. But you know, if the Senate doesn't do something, the House is going to pass a bill that says it's going to become law automatically. The thing that, and I know this was all political rhetoric, but the thing that bothered me is this took place at a press conference, and there was not one journalist that questioned this. that it has to pass in the House, it has to pass in the Senate, and for a bill to become law, the president has to sign it. And not one journalist questioned this.
They're not journalists. They're prostitutes.
That's good.
Look, it's a revolving door. Look who the press secretary is, James Carney.
Right.
By the way, Carney, that's a slang word for carnival. And it's perfect. He came from Time magazine. You look at every level, you see the revolving door. Whether it's Wall Street, if you want to know what's wrong with America, you could sum it up into 6 simple words: Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. And that's not rhetoric. You look at the Supreme Court. Who's packed the Supreme Court? Oh, Harvard and Yale. That's it. That's it. Nobody else allowed. We're smarter than everybody. You look at the government. Where are they from? They're Wall Streeters. Where do they go? Harvard, Princeton, Yale. It's the same club. Who are the journalists? They're Yaleys. They're Harvard, Princeton, Yale. It's the same club.
When it comes to politics, I have said this for years. There is no difference, and this is offensive sometimes to people that listen to talk radio. And I'll be upfront that I don't believe this radio station leans as far to the right as most talk radio stations. However, I have said for years, and it's been offensive to listeners, that there's no difference between the Republicans, and the Democrats.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in this nonsense. And I have a background, by the way, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I was a government affairs specialist in D.C. for many years. You know, I have pictures of me and Reagan, Connolly. I know what it looks like. And anybody, as I said, I agree with you 100%. Remember this election, Darryl? It was going to be historic change in 2010. Yeah, the Gambinos took over for the Bananos.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, that's all it is. They call it campaign contributions.
Well,
how about bribes and payoffs?
Well, look. Here's the thing that bothers me. There's so much debate going on now, and it's all political rhetoric. It's all grandstanding that's happening about what the budget cut is going to be moving forward. The government shutting down. Is it going to be? It started off at $6 billion. Then it was $60 billion. Then it's $30 billion. And all of this is basically pocket change when you look at the deficit and you look at the size of the federal government. And when you really research this and you realize that the budget deficit just increases because of interest about almost $30 billion every month, and they're talking about cutting $30 billion. They're talking about nothing.
They're talking about nothing. Hey, try this one on. They just started a new war that's costing, over $100 million a day. But no, hey, how about fixing Detroit? You know, I love these politicians. You know, let's fix America first. How about America first? And I'm not an isolationist either. I mean, I've traveled the world. One thing has nothing to do with another. You want to talk about homeland security? How about the economic security of this country?
Mm-hmm. Well, Gerald, this past couple of weeks it came out with the census, and you bring up Detroit, and people, if they haven't done it and looked online and weren't horrified at what happened to Detroit, and it's been going on for decades, but really coming home to roost since 2000, where Detroit lost about 250,000 people in their population, and and then looking at pictures of what is left of Detroit in abandoned buildings and thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of abandoned homes in Detroit as people move out. And that's not, Detroit is not unique. It's happening in every city in America.
Oh, yeah. And you know, by the way, when you mentioned Detroit and you look at those deteriorating buildings, it's a real lesson, because you look at the beauty and the structures of this and the work and the art that went into it, because it tells you at a time when America was about quality, when it was about beauty, not the bottom line. And to me, the only way this country is going to come back is to have a renaissance and discover the quality and beauty that we used to be. That now they've mauled us in every meaning of the word. Big box stores. Oh yeah, how about going into a large self-storage unit to go shopping so you could save 15 cents? And this is and to me, the way this country has to come back, you have to put America first. There are 312 million of us. Let's start doing business with each other. And that, to me, and the quality and beauty, again, as you mentioned, what has happened to Detroit, from 2 million now to what, 713,000?
Yeah, something like that, just over 700,000 people. You know, you bring up in a way their manufacturing in the United States, and, you know, we were pretty much sold a bill of goods back in the 1990s with the whole NAFTA thing, and then, you know, companies moving their manufacturing base offshore into the Far East, into China, into Korea, and it's all about us being this big consumer society, and you know, we're paying a lot less. But the downside to that is we don't manufacture much in this country anymore.
That's right, and we're earning a lot less. Did you see the numbers that just came out yesterday on CEO pay? Up 27% for the average worker, adjusted for inflation, 2.1%. Mm-hmm. And that's generous. It's really lower than that because our federal government, the USSA, they don't add food and fuel into inflation. It's all in your mind out there when you're putting that nozzle in your gas tank and going to the store. It's not costing you any more.
Yeah, Cheryl, I've had people that have been you know, actively involved in the economy and people that are investment people, and I have asked that. Why don't they include food and fuel when it comes to that inflation?
Because they don't want to pay us anything. They just, for the third year in a row, the cost of living increase, the people on retirement have gotten zero. And that's the reason they do it. It began under Clinton. And you mentioned NAFTA. That was another one of his schemes. And that's why they're doing it. There's no rationale at all, unless, of course, you're from Princeton and you made it up and you call yourself the Federal Reserve.
So this is basically about, as you put it in the Trends Journal, screw the people.
That's it. We're getting it on every end. Licensing fee, everything we buy costs more. Everything we get from the state costs us more. And if you step out of line, boy, you're in trouble. Go 3 miles over the limit, over the yellow line, man. They're waiting to get you. Darryl, have you seen one head from Wall Street roll?
Well, you know, there are people that will say Bernie Madoff, but Bernie Madoff was not involved in this. That was a personal Ponzi scheme. That's
it. There's nobody. You know what they do? They get fined. Mm-hmm. They get fines. The guy, like a guy Angelo Mazzillo from Countrywide. What did he do? He walked off with like $500 million or something, and they hit him with a $27 million fine. Say, oh, you can't go back into the business anymore for 3 years or something stupid like that. Every one of them, there's not one head that rolled. All they do, the Goldman Sachs gang, what did they do? They got hit with a fine, a fine that was equal to about 2 weeks worth of receipts.
Gerald, what is the mental state when you see people just going after hundreds of billions of dollars like that? I've often questioned the mental. There was the family that was involved with that cable company in Pennsylvania, Adelphia Cable, that they stole, and they used that company as a personal piggy bank, and I think they were accused of stealing over $1 billion.
They're money junkies.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, after you steal your first $50 million, why do you need to keep going back and steal $1 billion?
They're junkies. They're no different than somebody on crack, heroin, Oxycontin. They're on money. They can't get enough. Again, this is this bottom line culture whereby the people that are elevated to the highest levels are those with the most money. Like, look at Warren Buffett. I'm going to buy something else. I mean, how much? When I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, I remember they used to say, how many steaks could one person eat? When was enough? And they're money junkies. They're junkies.
Well,
and they don't want to call them that.
Gerald Celente, you are out with your Trends Journal, the winter edition, and your outlook for 2011.
Yes, and the spring edition, the Great War, is going to be out in 2 weeks.
And explain the Great War.
They're taking us to war. We wrote after the TARP bailouts, all that began to happen. We said when the bailout bubble bursts, The next thing they will do is take you to war. The global Ponzi scheme is collapsing. The natives are restless. Look what's going on in Europe. The EU is failing in front of our eyes. And this is what they do. You hearing these leaders? This little Sarko the American, Cameron over there in the UK, Obama. We got to take out Gaddafi.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go take him out. Keep us out of it.
Yeah, are you looking at
chicken hawks? They're chicken hawks.
Are you looking at what is happening in the Mideast as the beginning of, for lack of a better way of putting it, World War III?
Yes. And look, Gaddafi's a madman. He said he's not going to go out. He'll go out as a martyr. What's going to stop him from maybe, hey, a little dirty bomb in Paris? How about some biological warfare in D.C.? And well, you guys over in London, here's one for you. That's what the next war is going to be fought as. It's not going to be tanks and planes. Mm-hmm. And the suitcase-sized nuclear weapons, on and on and on. And as long as America keeps doing what it's doing, hey, how about lobbing a couple of more Predator drones into Pakistan to get those, quote, suspected militants? So we're the foreign policy that they're bringing our nation into they're going to call it terrorism in America. Try calling it revenge attacks.
When the president spoke a few nights ago, and he was talking about NATO taking over, and this past week, I know Jon Stewart made a joke of it on the Daily Show, but about NATO being us. And then the Canadians taking over in this mission in Libya. The Canadians? Who the hell defends Canada? Us!
Yeah, Dudley Do-Right. Remember him? Yeah. He'll be there leading the charge. And the other thing, too, when they use that term NATO, and these are the kind of things you'll do as a trend forecaster, you read the language very carefully. Every time you see a report coming out of Afghanistan of soldiers that were killed, or they're always NATO soldiers, they no longer call them U.S. troops. They're always NATO now.
Yeah, that's very sad.
Yeah, have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have. Well, Gerald, as always, I appreciate the information, the time, and your foresight into what is happening in our country.
And, Darryl, I appreciate being on with you and your foresight as well. Thank you.
All right, and you're also celebrating your 20th anniversary, right?
20th anniversary of the Trends Journal, yeah. And our 30th year, actually, is the Trends Research Institute.
Very cool. TrendsResearch.com. Gerald Celente, have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. As Gerald says, he doesn't mean to be a doomsayer, but if you read the Trends Journal, he does give you food for thought. I'm Darryl Parks in for Doc Thompson. About 23 after 9 on the big one, 700 WLW. About 28 after 9, I'm Darryl Parkson for Doc Thompson, the Johnny Carson of the big one. And 10:06 this morning, we'll deal with the Senate Bill 5, the whole collective bargaining law. It's a law now. Union brothers and sisters, it's a law. And 11:06 this morning, I have another question. Yesterday I saw Ray Malaluga going to the Reds game, and so he was there supporting his professional baseball brothers. Where are the pro football union brothers, and why aren't they supporting the public sector union brothers and sisters? You would think they'd be at the State House at Broad and High protesting, wouldn't you? All right, we'll deal with that. Also coming up after the news, I'll give you some facts and figures on how foolish this whole government shutdown thing is in Washington. On the big one, 700 WLW. Hey, if you missed anything on opening day, well, you can head to 700WLW.com. We have pictures of what happened on opening day. We have video of what happening on opening day. We have live chats so you can still talk about what happened on opening day. 700WLW.com. Search the word Reds. In fact, I think my core body... I had a wonderful time at the ballpark yesterday. Helping out Willie in his broadcast there starting at noon. But I think my core body temperature fell to about 83 degrees. Because last night I went home, my wife said, I'm going to turn up the thermostat for you. And I was just freezing. May have iron deficiency or something. Said to Western Hills, George, you're on the big one. All right, George, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
It's nice to see that you've got something on because he's a really bright guy. If you look at what's really happening, it's good cop, bad cop by the two parties. Back in the 70s, they took the debates away from the League of Women Voters, and the two parties formed a corporation where they set up who can actually get in a debate and who can't. They're working together, basically. The top management in the parties, they're the ones running things, but the regular people down at the bottom, until they get any power, they're trying to do something better.
George, we have major problems in this country when it comes to economics. What these fools are doing right now, and I'll also include John Boehner as a fool, because they're sitting here debating nothing. Truly nothing. I'm going to give some figures here in a bit. And I made when I was on with Gerald there, I made the point that, they're talking about cutting $30 billion out of a budget of, $3.5 trillion, which is about 1%, maybe a little bit less than 1%, depending on what figures you're looking at. And it's nothing. It is nothing. It doesn't equal the 1 month increase in the budget due to interest payments.
When I was young in the 60s and 70s, I said basically that the ones that would be able to have a treaty and get in good with the communists would be the Republican Party, because they were the ones that were yelling anti-communist all over the country, and anybody who was who thought of anything that they didn't agree with was a socialist or a communist.
Well, George, let me give you another figure here. The news just came out. The unemployment rate dropped to 8.8%. In March, the economy, the country added 216,000 jobs. All right?
Yep.
At a rate of 200,000 jobs of an increase per month, we wouldn't get back to a 6% unemployment rate until 2016.
The point of that is this: in the 70s, late 70s, and I got a degree in economics. Okay,
all right.
Back in the late 70s, what happened is they changed the way they're reporting their unemployment statistics. Basically, when I was young, they were 4.5% and things like that, and then you have during the Bush administration, they're saying they have a record 4.5%. They're only reporting. They're no longer reporting people who are only working part-time 10 hours a week as unemployed. They're not reporting people that have dropped out of the system because they can't find a job as unemployed. Mm-hmm. The true unemployment rate, if you look at it, it was running around 19 or 20% for a while.
Yep.
And it's gone down slightly, but it's not that much.
Well, George, there's a problem in our world. There's a problem in our country's economy. And the people that we send to Washington, or we send to city council, or wherever, they refuse to deal with the fact. And here's the fact from the Wall Street Journal this morning. More Americans work for government right now than manufacturing, farming, fishing, forestry, mining, and utilities combined. It's 20 before 10. I'm Darryl Parks in for Doc Thompson on 700 WLW. 700 WLW. What a day for opening day yesterday for the Cincinnati Reds. Opening night's coming up tomorrow. And how could you not have a smile on your face this morning?
Here's a fly ball. Hit back into right field. It's hit well. This one belongs to the Reds. Ramon Hernandez in opposite field. 3-run home run into the Milwaukee bullpen. And the Reds have started out 2011 as they ended 2010. They win this game, the opener of the year, 7-6.
There is nobody better than Marty Brennaman. It just brings goosebumps to you. And you have to have a smile if you're a baseball fan, if you're a Reds fan. after hearing that yesterday afternoon here on the big one. Final score 7-6 yesterday afternoon, and the Reds, it's opening night, big festivities, including the Budweiser Clydesdales tomorrow night at Great American Ballpark. The inside pitch at 6:10 tomorrow night, and it's Milwaukee in town for the weekend series. Reds baseball, spring is here on the big one, 700 WLW. Wayne in Corryville, you're on the big one.
Darryl, are you feeling all right today?
I'm feeling fine, Wayne.
You're talking this conspiracy stuff. Is there, like, people hiding in your closet? You really think that President Obama's trying to start World War III?
That's what my guest thinks.
Oh, well, it seems like you're agreeing with him, and you're saying that the Democrats and the Republicans are trying to control us.
Well,
and then you
I
said
didn't
that you're
say that, Wayne.
And then you said you're a libertarian.
I've never said that.
Well, I think maybe that you're a conspiracy.
No, you think, Wayne.
You're a conspiracy nut.
Wayne.
Do you believe in UFOs and little green men?
Do I what?
Do you also believe in UFOs and little green men?
I think there may be life on other planets.
I think you're pulling a Bilbo Shears on us.
I'm pulling a Bilbo Shears. All right.
Yes, you got those guests on there that think that that we're going to be a one new world order.
No, I truly believe, Wayne, that there is no difference between a Republican and a Democrat.
As I heard your guest, he said that this guy was.
Wayne. People like you, Wayne,
you're
believe.
A conspiracy nut.
See,
sir.
Wayne,
you are completely nuts.
Wayne, people like
you're
you.
Off your rockers, sir.
Wayne, you see, people like you want to believe that they're actually doing something in Washington. Really, I need mental help,
crazy stuff, man.
Like what, Wayne? What crazy stuff?
To the Summit Center, sir.
Wayne, what crazy stuff?
Conspiracy about making gasoline prices go up high.
Who said anything about gasoline prices?
Oh, you've been talking
I know
about
I paid $3.60 a gallon yesterday when I filled up my Ford.
That's because we're in war in the Middle East. Sir.
Oh,
that's not
we're
a
in war.
That's
right?
a conspiracy.
You mean the war? You mean the bombs that we let loose in Libya to protect the oil interests of France and Great Britain?
No,
Wayne, let me ask you a question, Wayne. Wayne, let me ask you a question. Aircraft carriers to set off missiles in Libya. Wayne, did Wayne hang up? Oh, wonderful, Wayne. Very good. And you know the rule of the big one. If you hang up on the host, Wayne, you lose. You lose big time, Wayne. No, I'm not a conspiracy nut, but I do have my eyes wide open. And I'll give you an example. I just got an email here from a lady named Kathy to D. Parks at 700WLW.com. And she said, did you hear any of Donald Trump's interview with Bill O'Reilly? I sure would like your opinion of that. Well, yeah, I did see it. And Bill O'Reilly saying that Donald Trump may be a little misguided and a conspiracy nut because Donald Trump now is tossing out there that Barack Obama probably wasn't born in America. Well, you know, years ago, I checked that out. And I believe he was born in Hawaii. There are, as Bill O'Reilly pointed out on Fox News, that there are actually announcements in a newspaper. Not only one newspaper, but two newspapers in Hawaii saying that he was born. Hard to make that up. Really hard to make that up. And Kathy, here's my opinion of it. Being born in New York State, when I saw the original birth certificate from Jamaica, New York, of Donald Trump, I said to myself, that's not a New York State birth certificate. That's not from the Department of Health. That may be a certificate given to the parents of Donald Trump by the hospital in Jamaica, New York, which is in Queens. Donald Trump has no idea what a birth certificate looks like. That's my opinion, Kathy. 10 in front of 10. I'm Darryl Parks, the conspiracy nut, believing in little green men and UFOs and one world order. On the big one, 700 WL. Ohio Union brothers and sisters having a problem this morning. Governor signed into law SB 5. It's law right now. Mike Wilson from the Ohio Liberty Council joins us 10:06 this morning here on the big one. Boy, there's nothing like an argument. Somebody making accusations to load up the phone lines. Now, here are the facts. You know, when government in this country employs more than manufacturing, fishing, and all that stuff that I talked about that's in the Wall Street Journal this morning, there is a problem. When you have Democrats and Republicans trying to fool you, saying that we're going to cut $60 billion. I thought it was $100 billion, by the way. Wasn't that what they campaign on? Oh, no, it can't be $100 billion. It's going to have to be 60. And then it's 30. And then it's a compromise. Probably end up being about $36 billion in a cut out of the government, which is pennies. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Less than 1% of what's being spent. And that when you find out that the budget increases just on interest alone, federal government, about $30 billion a month, just because of interest. See, they don't tell you that. They you know, it doesn't matter. They want you to think that they're working real hard for you. They're playing you for fools. And to Wayne, here's the problem, Wayne. I am just sick and tired of paying taxes and high taxes and having people come back. And no matter what, you know, I'm sick of paying, looking at my county tax bill, the property tax bill going up and up and up, and then having politicians lie to me saying it's not going up. I'm sick of school districts coming back and saying they need more money. It is time for a restart on every level. And Wayne, thinking twice about it, maybe it's good that I'm a conspiracy nut. Maybe it is. At least I'm a thinking guy. And Wayne, I just encourage you to think. Gary, you're on the big one.
Yes, how are you, Darryl?
I'm all right, Gary.
Yeah, I just called to defend you. I'm one of those tinfoil hat-wearing people, and I do believe that Democrats, Republicans are all the same. I've got my bug-out bag and my survival kit ready. I'm just sitting back watching the sheeple.
Well, Gary, I must admit I don't have my food supply to last for a year. I don't have that, but if you do, that's good.
Well, the thing is it's what's happening in this country. The sickness is called stupidity. It's like none of them are in touch with anybody. They don't care, and that's the problem. And the citizens, they're too busy in their own little realm. They don't care either. Nobody cares. Gary,
Gerald made a point about us being a weak nation now, not having any type of resolve, and I have made a point numerous times about the parents. You know, they're called helicopter parents or soccer moms, and you know, and the way they're raising kids, that they have to drive them to the apron of the driveway and wait at the apron of the driveway inside the vehicle to keep them warm before they get on the school bus. And I call them veal, and that is what we're raising. No one has any resolve. No one has any guts. No one wants to think. You have most people working for the government now instead of working in manufacturing and building something. And what does government build?
Well, you know,
bureaucracy.
There is a small group of us that do have a set of balls, but we're the only ones that even care, and we can't do anything because nobody else wants to. You know, I know what's going on. I'm prepared.
Yep. Gary, every year we see the same fools calling talk radio stations. They call my show, and they all talk about how great, you know, insert candidate name is going to be if we elect them. All right, and a lot of them are plants by the parties, and both parties. You know, and they start reading off a talking sheet, and you can tell. You know, I normally hang up on them because I don't want to hear it, because they're not thinking. They're not thinking about the real issues. They're just, well, you know, this candidate's going to be great. You know, we elect John Boehner. It's going to be, how about John Boehner? You know, I mean, this guy's in a box now. You know, he wants to compromise, and now that, you know, if he doesn't compromise, he's a dead man.
Yeah, if he'd cry and have more passion for people instead of crying about stupid
I'll
issues,
tell you what, if he compromises, Gary, it may be the end of him as House Speaker, and he will be crying, bawling, crying to his constituents. It's a minute before 10. Mike Wilson's going to join us 10:06 this morning on the new law, the collective bargaining law in the state of Ohio. Union brothers and sisters up in arms, and I do have a question this morning for the union brothers and sisters. since he signed the bill, meaning the governor last night, why aren't you protesting in Columbus today? Are you part of that soccer mom generation? This is the home of the Cincinnati Reds, 700 WLW.